And welcome back to Inside Olympia. It is a tradition on Inside Olympia to talk with new legislators. Joining me now are two first-year Republicans. They are State Representatives Suzanne Schmidt, who represents the 4th District, that's the Greater Spokane Valley, and Stephanie McClintock of Vancouver in Southwest Washington, who represents the 18th District. I guess technically I should say Clark County, but let me hear from each of you. How do you describe your districts, the part of the state that you represent?
So Clark County's correct. It's that north end of Vancouver, Clark County, and into Battleground. So neighborhoods of Salmon Creek, Philida, Orchards, and just a little edge into Ridgefield. We did experience redistricting. So 18th has changed quite a bit, and the 20th kind of moved down, and the 17th moved farther to the east, and the 18th moved a little south.
And the thing that we should always keep in mind about Clark County is it's fast growing.
Very fast growing. We have a lot of new homes and new developments going in right now.
Okay, Representative Schmidt, tell us a little bit about your...
Okay, so I'm from the Greater Spokane Valley, the 4th District, so that would be the city of Spokane Valley, Millwood, up into Green Bluff, which is a farming community. Mm-hmm. We also have Liberty Lake, which goes and then over to the Idaho border. Yeah. So it's quite a big area.
What about your background, your experience, brought you to the legislature?
Before running for office, I was the president and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors, so I spent a large part of my job advocating for employers and their employees. Prior to being the president, CEO, I ran their workers' comp, or their retrospective rating program. So I worked with workers' comp, overtime rules, unemployment issues, and so I was representing, again, employers and their employees. That's, that just kind of goes into why I ran for office. So that's what I was doing before I ran for office, and then when I was over in Olympia, and so I would be over here for, committees and working with my lobbyist, I really felt like there was, that I had a niche, a certain area that not a lot of people have expertise in. And so when I would come over and visit with, with representatives or the Senate, I spent a lot of time educating them on certain areas of, like I said, overtime, safety rules, things like that. And that's where it just really clicked for me. It just clicked that, maybe this is something that would be, that would be a good fit for me and would also be helpful to the residents or the citizens of the 4th District, that I'd be able to represent them and small businesses in that way, so the employers and their employees in those issues.
But it sounds like you have a particular understanding of how state-level regulations impact businesses directly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What about you? What brought you to the legislature?
Well, I took a little different path than Suzanne. I plugged into my local county party. When my youngest was about 5 years old. So that was 2008, started volunteering, and they just hooked me in, and I ended up being vice chair in 2010. Then I took over as chair of the party in 2012. It was a big presidential election year. Vancouver hosted the Washington State Republican Convention that year. So I've been plugged into local politics since then. After that, I decided to run for a school board and won a seat there from 2012 to 2017, thereabouts, and really enjoyed that experience. And I enjoyed, I have 2 kids that were school-age kids at the time, so I was really interested in how decisions were made, priorities set, things like that. So I enjoyed the nonpartisan piece coming from the Republican Party and focusing on just, is this what's best for kids? And then after that, I went back to work because I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. My husband and I had a small business going, and so I've got some, small business experience there, and eventually went back to work full-time. So I work for an export company for agriculture. So I've really learned a lot over the last 7 years about agriculture and what's going on the eastern side of our state, and not just so myopic onto what's going on in Southwest Washington. So I decided to run because I felt like I have something to offer. It was a good time in my life to kind of take a leap of faith and try something new. And so here I am.
Is there any particular issue that you came to Olympia determined to work on? And I asked that of the panel that was on before you, and we talked, for instance, about housing and community safety, for instance, kind of came to mind for them. But is there like any kind of really animating issue that motivated you either to run, or that once you got here you were like, I want to take the lead on?
So for me, it was really with workforce and workforce development. So working,
which is a huge issue, not just here but everywhere.
Right, it is, and in every industry. Yeah. So, that's what when I was asking employers, being the president of an association, it's really, that's what I need to do is find out like what is it, what are your needs and what can we do, what services can we bring forward that are going to help you and help your business to be successful. And the thing that the repeated line that I kept hearing was, I need, there's not enough workforce. We don't have enough people in the trades. We don't have, enough people to do the work that we have available. And actually had contractors telling me that they were leaving work on the table and not bidding work because they just didn't have enough workers or subcontractors to get that work done. So there was one particular issue that did really motivate me in my decision making to coming to Olympia. It was a Senate bill that was passed in I believe it was 2018. It may have been 19, but it was Senate Bill 6126. And what that was is it was a bill that basically there was 5 pathways to become a commercial electrician. And they basically in that legislation changed so that there was one pathway, and the only pathway was to be a registered or to participate in a Washington State approved apprenticeship program. There were different pathways: community colleges, vocational colleges, training programs, and what they would call a trainee as opposed to an apprentice. And the effective date for that legislation was July of 2023. So it was coming sooner than I would say people anticipated. And I knew that there were a lot of contractors that had not switched from a trainee program or a community college program to an apprenticeship program. And so that was something that I really wanted to focus on, is how can we either change this legislation or at least delay it. So that was one of the first legislation that I sponsored was a bill to delay that the Senate Bill 6126.
Any luck with it?
So thank you for asking. So actually, it was not. We never exec'd it out of committee. But what happened and what was really significant is that we had over 100 electrical contractors, either workers or the contractor owners, come to Olympia for the hearing when my bill was heard. So they came in support of that. So it wasn't exec'd out, but what that did is there was a bill over in the Senate that Senator Saldana had sponsored that was looking at opening up some of those pathways and creating some waivers and variances so that we could accept more of those trainees and technical college people. And so that was happening, but they weren't going to open it as broad as it ended up being. And I believe that my, dropping that legislation and having that great showing and support when we had the hearing really opened the doors for Senator Saldana to work with me and work with labor and employers, and we really came to some understanding and agreement, legislation that's very, I'm very excited about it. Hopefully it will be coming to the floor soon, and we can vote that out and get that in place before July of 2023.
Well, and you answered a question that I didn't ask yet, which is sort of how, as a member of the minority party, can you still be effective? And what are some techniques and ways to do that? I think you answered the question. You introduce a bill, maybe you can get a hearing, build some support, you can work across the aisle, see if there's interest. So that's very interesting. What about for you? Is there some issue that either that kind of animated your run for office, or that really you came here on day one saying, I can't do it all, I want to prioritize. Here's what
Sure.
I'm going to
Well, near and dear to my heart is public safety. My dad being a 31-year law enforcement.
prioritize. In Southwest Washington or elsewhere?
No, I am from out of state, so I grew up there, but I've been here for 25 years.
You're not alone. There's a lot of transplants. That's the nature of
Yeah, I
the
had a
state.
feeling. So the public safety is really, really important. Making sure that we support our law enforcement. If we don't have a safe community, we can't have any of this. Our way of life is, not what it should be, and it's not right now. So I've been supported. I'm not on that committee. I tried. As a freshman, we don't always get our first choice.
Yeah.
So, but that's certainly something that is near and dear to my heart. Education, the learning loss. I have two sons. One of them missed his, part of his junior and senior year of high school. And I mean, those are formative years. Those are experiences you look back and remember. And the fact that he has this, kind of some resentment around not being able to, play his baseball season his junior year and have that interruption. Younger kids, I have lots of friends and that have kids that are younger than that went through this school closure for a year, and the learning loss is really difficult, and the mental struggles that these kids have had that I think COVID brought on, and being isolated for so long, are playing out in our schools today. We have behavior issues in schools. I have teacher friends that say they can't even contemplate trying to make up for learning loss. They're trying to keep up, and they have such discipline issues in the classroom. So there is a lot that we need to be looking at. Some things were addressed a little bit this session. As a freshman, you just kind of come in and see how the process is. And during the interim here, I have a long laundry list of things that I want to start looking at in terms of how we can see some improvements and putting some bills together. Been reaching out to my superintendent, and we've already had one meeting, and we're going to continue that over the interim here and bring something together, I think, next session that that we can help.
Have you, I realize you're first year members, you're Republicans, so that means you're in the minority. Have you been able to pass a bill this year? Yes, okay. So tell me about a success story. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go first. Okay. So, I have the bill that I have, and actually we just had the Speaker of the House just signed off on it last night. Last night. Okay. So that was awesome. But so the bill that I had it was a fix for the unemployment. So it's unemployment. It was an issue that I was aware of because, again, I was advocating for employers and employees, and so it was an agency fix. But I knew that it was something that needed to be fixed. It's the process of when somebody files an appeal. So say that they've filed an unemployment claim, and then that claim is denied, and then they go through the appeal process. Well, once they go through that appeal process, when they go to the Office of Administrative Hearings. Every time they have to look at if there's availability to work, even though that wasn't the reason that the claim was denied. And so it actually, what it would do is then bump it back to ESD, and then they'd have to, basically clarify it and then send it back to the hearing. So what it did is it eliminated that step, made it more clear, less confusion for the employee, less confusion for the employer, and just less administrative work for both ESD, Employment Security Department, and also the Office of Administrative Hearing. So
would you put this in the cutting red tape bucket?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
and you got it
thank
across
you.
the finish line.
Yes.
So the Speaker signed off on it. It's passed the other chamber?
Yes, it's passed both chambers. The Speaker signed off, so it's now heading to the Governor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So I have similar to that, cutting some red tape. 1301, it's asking the our Department of Licensing here to evaluate its processes. It was amended in the Senate. Originally, it was 20% of their licensing procedures over the next 5 years to catch up. It was amended to do 10% per year over the next 10 years. But, just being a small business owner and out and about in the community, I'm getting my hair done, asking, the hairdressers in the shop I'm in, how's the process going? And they're like, oh, it takes forever. This, I can't figure out the website. It takes a long time. So this is just, I think just good business practice. I know in my own professional world, I'm updating our website probably every couple months. So, and making sure that the processes that our customers go through on our website are easy and work for them. So our constituents are our customers of the state when they're trying to renew their license, get a license so they can do business.
And just to be clear, it's 10%. Do they essentially have to audit?
Yes, they're auditing those processes.
Process.
Yes.
To see if could it be more efficient? Could
Yes.
we build it?
Yes. So looking to refine those efficiencies and make it easier for the consumer.
And this also gets at that workforce issue.
Yes.
And it gets probably at people moving in from out of state who may want to get back into the workforce and have to go through this licensure process.
Yes.
So I imagine that there's some kind of synergy there.
Yes. So it did pass unanimously out of committee, unanimous off the House floor, and it is now sitting in the, passed out of the Senate committee that I testified in, and it's sitting in House or in Senate rules right now. So hopefully, and as a freshman, we're learning to work a bill. So we are every step of the way. It's introducing your bill to that committee. Thank you. This is my bill. So what it's about. I would appreciate. It would be great if you could hear my bill. And then same as, it's in rules, here's my bill. You're finding out who's on those committees and reaching out to those people to kind of, that's your baby and you're moving it along. So hopefully I'll be having Speaker Jenkins be signing my bill as well.
Yes.
Well, what are some observations you have about this legislative environment in the process? And again, you're not in the majority, but I'm curious if there's anything that surprised you, anything that's dismayed you, anything that's been a positive in terms of kind of how the place works, what it's like to work across the aisle. As I noted with the first panel, a couple of years ago, if you were a new lawmaker, you'd be doing this all virtually. So I guess you're fortunate in the sense you get to be in person, getting oriented to the place. But what's an observation or two you have about the place, the process?
Yeah, I would say that it really, the chair of the committee, so because, we're in the minority, then we don't chair committees, we're ranking members. But I believe that the chair of the committee really sets the tone for how the committee works together. And so I was very fortunate. I'm on the transportation committee, so and we just passed the transportation budget. And just to watch, Chair Fye was very good about including the ranking members in the budget process and just really, open communication. And so just seeing that process and seeing, that there's open communication, that he was listening to us, he was including us. He actually, took time to meet with all of the members individually. So that's why I see that the chair of the committee really sets the tone. Then I was also on post-secondary education, workforce development. We had, that was Chair Slatter, and she did a great job in really providing us with work sessions, and so that we would understand a lot of the bills that were coming through. In that committee, it was different because most everything that we voted out of that committee, we voted out of unanimously.
Interesting.
And that was, we did a lot of the nursing compact, and so all, things like that were ran through the nursing compact, the dental compact.
It goes back to these workforce
Right,
issues
exactly, exactly. And so that was, that was really great. That was really a feel-good committee to be on, and also just, great leadership. Letting us know again what we were going to be looking at, explaining compacts. Because honestly, before hearing the first one, I didn't know the difference between a compact and a reciprocal agreement, which actually a compact is just a glorified reciprocal agreement. and didn't know that. So she made sure that we had that instruction in those work groups. So that's what I would say, and that's where we really can work together bipartisanly. When you have a chair that is looking at the committee as, this is my committee, she's not looking at, I have 16 Democrats and 13 Republicans, or whatever it is, and I really believe Chair Fye did the same with the Transportation Committee. And so it was I think we did work very well bipartisan. I mean, there were some things that, of course, we, we're just going to split because that's just, we don't agree on everything.
Yeah. You almost, in this place, it's almost like you have to have the split screen mentality where it's like, I'll work with you, we can agree, and then there's going to be things that we vociferously disagree about, but somehow we'll try to not let the two interfere. But
yes. I think those less contentious issues we work well together on, and we use each other as resources. We all bring something to the table. I had a great experience working on a bill in my consumer protection committee that a bill about puppy mills was brought, and they were specifically going on, after one thing, and an unintended consequence was going to be a small pet store in my community that had been there for many decades now. So I was able to work with the sponsor of that bill, a Democrat, and kind of make an amendment and carve out to make sure that that really didn't apply to him, because that was not the intent of what she was doing. So I had a great experience working together across the aisle on that. And I agree with Suzanne. It really is, the chair of the committee sets the tone, and I'm also on education and capital budget, and all three of those committees were chaired by members that worked across the aisle, and I felt included. I would say that it's a little different when we're taking votes on the House floor on those contentious issues. So
what is that like? I mean, how does that compare? Here you might be working really closely with somebody across the aisle on a particular issue, but then you hit the House floor on something that is going to really divide the chamber.
Yes.
And maybe make people quite emotional, feel very strongly.
It's hard to a little bit, you kind of have to separate what you're working on, and just understand people come from different places. This is where I come from. Yes. And I am a proponent of law enforcement. I want to see them have all the tools that they can to protect our community and to keep it safe. And they come from a different place, and their viewpoints are different. I think they are still concerned with community safety, but not in the same way. So it's things like we're hoping to see the police pursuit bill come to the House floor. We're waiting. The bill we heard, 1240, on our Second Amendment, assault weapons, was a quite spirited debate. And as a freshman, as a freshman, I just sat back and just took all that in like a sponge, because
well, if nothing else, it was historic.
Yes, and the amazing floor speeches that come from our caucus are so inspiring, and so proud to be a part of it.
Do you have a similar observation about sort of the floor environment and those contentious issues?
I mean, really, I think how Representative McClintock, how she described it, was exactly what I experience. It's it's different ideology. It really is. It's and I'm with her as we're very pro law enforcement and want to be able to provide them with the tools to do their jobs, and then also we want to provide them with the respect of that position, and how difficult it is to be a first responder, to be a policeman or a firefighter, and it just takes a special type of person to be able to do that. And so we want to be able to sponsor them and support them in those areas, and across the floor. That's not the same ideology. We're looking at that we want to be I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we're not wanting to keep people accountable, I guess, is what I see from across the aisle. Is we don't want to make people accountable. We want to be able to ease off and on law enforcement. And so that's difficult, but again, that's what we, just have to kind of separate ourselves and say, this is who we are, this is the platform that we support, this is who they are, that's the platform they support. We really agree on 80% of the, middle.
Yeah.
So it's just those, 20% on either end or 10% on either end that we don't. And
it's interesting you say that as a first-year member, because that is, the 80-20 rule really does seem to apply here. And you hear that from lawmakers who've been here for less than a full session and people who've been here for 20 years. That's a recurring theme. Of course, what gets the most attention tends to be the 20%. But we have about a minute and 15 seconds left. So just a last comment or statement as you sort of reflect, especially in the last couple of weeks here, winding down.
Well, it's been a roller coaster. I came in here at the start of the session with just stars in my eyes, and I'm going to conquer everything. And that's a simple way to look at it, and my optimism coming out of how I approach things. But really. I'm kind of the personality that just sits back and absorbs it and watches it. Observes the process. How does all this work? How does a bill? Who do you work with on your bill? Who's the staff? Who's the committees? And then just the whole process of the bill. And it was just a good lesson. And I thought I knew what this process was, and I didn't know anything.
Well, that's very humble of you to
yes,
acknowledge.
But it's been a great experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm looking forward to wrapping up here and seeing how things turn out. I've made some great friends, made some amazing people, and I feel very fortunate to be serving our constituents.
10 seconds or less.
Okay, so I agree with everything that Representative McClintock just said. I mean, just the ups and downs and learning and knowing who the committees were and how to work the process. And again, with her on the off season, I look forward to going back to the 4th District and working with my constituents.
Okay. Representative Schmidt and McClintock, thank you so much. Good luck in the final days and weeks here. Appreciate you talking to us. Thank you for watching Inside Olympia. We'll see you again next week.